Good evening, everybody. It is 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast on a Monday. It must mean it's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Had to deal with uh reacting to a soda pop that I was drinking earlier, but I'm good.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all
How
is
do you
well, all is well, other
it's
than
a
the
very minor
fizziness.
problem.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Dealing with fizzy soda is not a big deal. But
yes.
yeah, I'm doing good. How are you
Excellent.
doing?
Doing all right. It's been finally starting to cool off a little bit around here. We've gotten some rain in the last couple of days, which I'm always happy about. So,
Hmm.
yeah, things are going swimmingly well.
And for just for our non-sponsor of today, it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar Cream Soda that's causing me to want to enter burp contests and stuff of some sort. Okay, apparently.
That's
All
a that's
right.
that's a hell of a subgenre of Dr. Pepper right there.
Yeah. All right. I'll share screen and we'll
All
roll
right.
into stuff and talk about whatever.
All right, sounds like a plan.
All right. So we left off last week. Uh, I was doing sketchy in-betweens to get Calamity to get to that pose. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
keep doing that tonight.
Okay. All right, sounds
Yeah,
good.
that'll be the plan. Yeah. I'm trying to think what I was going to talk to you about tonight, and the main thing was telling you that I officially finished Super Mario Odyssey, got
Okay.
the ending, all that stuff.
Okay.
Um, Great game.
Yeah.
It's I feel like I still need to play it through and post winning it, and then do everything else, do all the other searches of the moons and stuff like that. I'm around 180 moons in
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
game.
Mm-hmm.
There's supposedly what, 1,000 or something,
Something
right?
like that.
So
Yeah, close to, maybe more even. I know the balloon
so
counter stops at 999.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've unlocked that balloon counter. Is that the Luigi mini game thing you're supposed to do?
Oh no, and the balloon counter on the big your main
Oh,
travel balloon.
on the
Yeah.
travel. Oh, got you. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I stopped paying attention to that. I just figured eventually it will when it gets closer to 500 or something. But yeah, I mean, but everything else has been unlocked, like Luigi's
Mm-hmm.
worldwide balloon hunt thing. I
Mm-hmm.
tried that for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. And so now, it's interesting because, I beat the game. Do I move on? Well, I mean, I think you played to a point where you had like 800 moons, right? So,
700 and something, but yeah,
okay.
it was
All right.
it
Yeah.
was a reasonable number. Yeah, a
Yeah.
reasonable enough number.
So I have a little bit of FOMO because I'm wondering, like, well, what other levels are there that I want to go through just to get those other moons? And are they fun or are they more frustrating? I've kind of skipped through a couple of moon challenges already because I found them rather frustrating
Mm-hmm.
than fun, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's the beauty of the game is you just move on. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to go for those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but now that I'm post game, I'm wondering, are the rest of them going to be like that? I'm not sure, but
There's a lot of really
um,
fun ones. There are some frustrating ones that I didn't bother with. There's like a couple of
okay.
race ones where you have to race a Koopa Troopa, and they're just I tried them a couple of times. Like, this is not fun. I could be doing something else, and so I didn't bother finishing those. And then there's a super hard level that you unlock after getting a certain number of moons. I don't remember how many. I didn't even attempt it. I think
Okay.
I launched it a single time, died almost immediately, and went, I've got other things to do.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but I mean,
The
given that I got to 700 some odd moons, I would say most of them are pretty entertaining
okay.
to chase down.
So the one that was the bane of my existence was a side scroller one in Koopa Kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
where you do traditional side scrolling 2D Mario, old
Mm-hmm.
school 8-bit, and you have to run across those gappy blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Run one side, then run to another side. Then you have to hurry and jump just the right way, just to get over the certain gap,
Hmm.
just to get to the end. It feels like I couldn't figure that one out. I gave up. I threw my controller up in the air for that one. I just gave
Yeah.
up. I came across a Koopa Troopa race. It didn't seem. I found it not too bad. I
The
kind
early
of
ones are pretty easy.
okay. That was my question. Like, do
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
other ones where they're really annoying? And
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. The
all right,
rematches are very, very tough. Yeah.
okay, all
The
right.
like the initial ones are not, they're pretty easy, but like when you go back to them, it's like, race me again. It's gonna be harder this
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it was like I'm not enjoying this. Um,
Do they show up
So
in other kingdoms too, or just in Mushroom Kingdom?
no,
These races.
there's a few races, and I think there is a race in each of the kingdoms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's the reason for once you beat it once, do they keep giving you more moons if you keep racing or something, or
Well, I mean, I think
what's the incentive?
it's just another moon. I don't think it's like infinite moons. I think it's like,
Okay.
one rematch, maybe more, and then each time you beat the race the first time you get a moon. But then after that, I think it's just coins or extra lives, or there's no
Okay.
extra lives, but coins or something.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But
Um,
yeah,
I was just gonna say I don't know whether it's fair to assess give my full review of this game yet or not because I don't know if I'm supposed to keep playing it to kind of get more of a feel for the game compared to Mario Galaxy, for example, or like Mario Wonder. I can't say anything about it. I've only played a couple levels, but playing through Odyssey, I think for me, I think Galaxy still edges it out right now. I just have more of a nostalgic kind of sentimental attachment to. I mean, had just more fun memories with Galaxy than
mm-hmm.
this one. But there's some
Mm-hmm.
really cool things about Odyssey too that are great. I just don't. I feel like I just still feel, and maybe it's the scope and the nature of what Galaxy was like because you're out in space, so it felt vast. Whereas Odyssey doesn't feel that way. But yet, maybe Odyssey is the bigger game. I don't know for sure. Um, but it just felt like Galaxy was just had gave a lot more bang for its buck.
Mm-hmm.
And the little gimmick about it, just running around planets, I just thought it was just more fun in general. But that's my general takeaway. But I know you liked Odyssey. You consider Odyssey the gold standard now for the Mario 3D games, right?
Yeah, for me at least, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I I would say that you've definitely, if you've beaten the game, you have definitely gotten a feel for it. I think it's,
Okay,
you're well within your rights to
move
provide
on.
judgment upon it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree. I mean, the gravity, goofing around with gravity in Super Mario Galaxy was super fun, very very entertaining. I
Mm-hmm.
ultimately it's just for me, it was just sort of the overall presentation and the variety of things to do in, I think, Odyssey is what really, um,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, Mario Galaxy, and to a lesser extent Mario Galaxy 2. Well, I mean, it's the same mechanics, but those are still very much single star. Here's your specific objective. Go do this one thing. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
with Odyssey, it's just like, here's a bunch of moons all over the
Mm-hmm.
world that you're in. Go have fun. Go explore. Right? It's totally up to
Yeah.
you. And I really liked the way it was structured. Right? I mean, in Mario Galaxy and every 3D Mario game before that, every time you went into a world, you were going in with a singular objective. And while you could get other moon or other stars or shines or whatever, sometimes, generally speaking, you would re-enter those levels, and the only thing that would be different would be your objective at the end of the level, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so I like that, Odyssey, and what you were just saying, like, if you didn't particularly care for or to attempt a particular moon, you could just go, screw it, I'm going to go do something
Mm-hmm.
else.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I really liked about Odyssey is you really had a lot of control over your engagement, how much you wanted to invest into it. But you can get a bulk of the experience, um, just by playing through the mainline game, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then there is all of this extra stuff that you can goof around with if you want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's largely the way the game loop was structured in Mario Odyssey that really made it appealing to me.
Mm-hmm. The only thing now that's ascended to me that makes me want to keep playing it
Mm-hmm.
is, well, what happened to Peach? And I think I'm assuming that has to do with. I mean, everybody talks about. I think you mentioned too the dark side of the moon. I think that's where she's probably at or something. Um,
No,
or one of
that's
these other.
you'll see. I
No.
mean, if you go back into it, you'll see what happened to her. Yeah, it's pretty clear. They establish pretty quickly what she's up to after the end of the game.
Okay, because like they say that she's gone from the castle, and I haven't left Mushroom Kingdom yet.
Okay,
So I don't
okay.
know. So I'm not sure if it just gets if I have to get X amount of moons to find out what happens to her. You know, that's what I was wondering as I kept playing. It's like, well, still no word from Peach. So what do I need to? What's the variable I need to do to activate that story sequence to know what happened to her? Kind of a thing, you
It's not
know?
really a story sequence. She just starts appearing in the
Okay.
different maps. So you just
Oh,
go back to
okay.
the different worlds, and then she'll be in there, and then
Oh, jeez.
your interactions with her, you just have to find her in the map, and then you've got some interactions with her once you get there.
Oh, that's it, huh? Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
thought there was like a
Mm-hmm.
big giant story thing they wanted to kind
No,
of do with her.
no, it's not like
Oh,
yeah, no, there's not. It's not like once you beat the main game, it unlocks like the rest of the game or anything, sort of like Pokemon
okay.
or Monster
Okay.
Hunter or something like that. But
Okay. All right.
no, it's just more fun, silly things to do, right? I mean, I think
Okay.
that for me, I've already said it, but I guess I'll say it in a different way. The sense of play in Super Mario Odyssey was
Hmm.
better than the sense of play in Galaxy, in the sense that it's just a little bit more. Um, the game encourages you to goof around a little bit more rather
Hmm.
than giving you super specific objectives, and that's really the only way to progress the experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I can see that as a big selling point for Odyssey, in that regard. Because yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you do have a lot more freedom to just move on. You don't have to. You're not blocked. You have to. You don't have to just sit there and keep working on that level.
Right. I mean,
You can get it.
there are
Hmm.
some like stars and shines in the older games that were just infuriating to get, but you kind of didn't
Yeah.
have a choice because that's how you
Hmm.
progress the overall process of the game. And so, whereas in Odyssey, there was at no point where I felt like I needed to beat my head against a wall to get a single moon because there's so many other that you can collect and
Yeah.
goof around with.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's pretty forgiving just to power up the ship to get it to leave
Mm-hmm.
that particular place. I pretty much just I just what is it? Min spec
You
or
just
whatever you want to
yeah
call it.
yeah you min
I
spec the
just
game. I
I
like
did
that.
yeah, I min spec every world and ran through it. Like I finished the game in like 10 hours, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um
If you just
it's pretty
rush
quick
through
if you
the
sprint.
main path, you can get through it pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think my rule pretty much was I'll try getting a moon like 3 times, and if I can't do it or if it's not fun, I'll have to move on. And then granted, you got kind of blocked with the boss, sort of, I guess, but even then, you could probably find ways to get around a boss
Yeah.
about midway through the game, through the other levels, I think, because you can just go back and get other moons from someplace else. But yeah, but great game though.
I really enjoyed the last sequence with Bowser. That one came out of left field for me, and
Were
I
you? Yeah, yeah. You know what's funny? That's the hardest part of the whole game for me. I died on
really,
that more than any other place in
huh?
the entire game.
That's so
I kept
funny.
dying. I
Yeah.
just kept dying. I'm like, oh, and I was frustrated with it. I was actually not enjoying it. The first 3 times, I was like, this is kind of fun. The fourth time I was like, okay, this is getting tiring. And then I would fall off. A gravity boss would get me or something. I'd fall off something, and then I would die. And then I would start getting frustrated and I try to find shortcuts or something because I've already been through that. I've already done that. Nope, gotta go this long way. Got to go through the side scrolling thing. Once again, you got to do all that. And like
Mm-hmm.
I get frustrated, make a mistake. Go start it over again. Yeah, I'm Bowser again, whatever, all that stuff.
I know I
Yeah,
died. Yeah, I know I died a couple of times on it, but I don't remember being frustrated with it, but
yeah,
I played it, when it came out in
yeah, yeah,
2017, so it's
yeah,
been a minute.
yeah. Um,
Um, so yeah, I guess I'd have to. I remember liking it. I remember thinking it was pretty hilarious.
yeah,
I so yeah, if it was frustrating, the good parts of it at this point have
outweighed it.
overwritten the bad parts of it in my
Yeah,
memory. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's still cool. I liked it. It was a nice surprise for sure, though.
hmm
Definitely.
hmm
Um,
I mean,
it
and
was a fun
it was funny
sequence.
because I had to bite my tongue last week when you were talking about
Yeah.
bosses being spectacles in Mario,
Uh,
and knowing that you hadn't gotten to that point yet, and I'm like,
it's quite the
you have
spectacle.
no idea how correct you are, because without a doubt, the Bowser encounter
Yeah.
in Odyssey is the biggest Bowser spectacle in the whole franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's great. It's terrific. It's so much fun to play. Like I said, except for that last little part. But even then, I totally got why they did that part, but it was just I don't know what it was. I just struggled. I struggled with that part
Hmm,
more than anything else in the game.
that's
Um,
so interesting.
Yeah, and
it's.
it's
Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, and it's kind of cool how if you because you do that Bowser, you fight Bowser about one third of the way through the game, and it's just echoes of that part, but a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more of a then deviate from it a little bit. I think that was so cool to kind of give you the conditioning to know how to fight him and you know what to
Mm-hmm.
expect. But
Mm-hmm.
it's still a great fight. It's still really cool. Everything about it, and he does all the cheap tricks that he does.
Mm-hmm.
It's just excellent sequence
One of the fun,
overall.
and we did talk about this, but one of the fun things to do is to go back into that encounter um,
Hmm.
wearing different costumes because Bowser says different things
Oh, really?
based on what costume you're wearing. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting.
So
Is there other characters that do that too in the game where you can actually experiment with costumes and stuff? Like
not that I
only
know
few,
of,
right?
not that I
Okay.
know of, but I didn't really pay that close attention to it.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I really dug that game. It was exactly the right difficult level for me, or at
Hmm.
least I played it
Yeah.
up to the difficulty level that I was interested in playing up to, which is another thing that I liked about it, right? Like
Yeah.
Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2, the difficulty level was what it was.
Hmm.
And if it was too hard for you, well, sorry, this is the
That's
difficulty of the
yeah.
game, right? But
Yeah. Hmm.
Odyssey, and this is something I wish, and obviously it wouldn't work across the board for every game, but I just like the way that Odyssey handled difficulty level, right? There wasn't like a menu item that you put to medium or easy or hard or whatever. They just
Hmm.
had enough content in the game where you could play to your desired difficulty level, but you weren't
Hmm.
punished for going beyond that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just found that extremely compelling, and it's ever since that game, it's always gotten me thinking about how how could you take that sort of framework or that sort of mindset where instead of a difficulty slider, there's just enough content in the game that you determine, you play up to the difficulty that you want to.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I thought that was really, really compelling, right? And it's different than an RPG um, or a Monster Hunter style crafting game where
Hmm.
the monsters get harder, but you're also leveling up, and
Yeah.
so the game loop, or rather, the moment to moment doesn't really change that much because
Yeah.
as you get more powerful, the monsters are getting more powerful with you. Mario Odyssey, Mario's abilities are his abilities from the beginning of the game, right?
Yeah.
And
It's
s-
yeah.
and so it's a slightly different interaction with the game environment because of that. And I've always found that since playing that game, I found that really compelling, and it makes you think about how else you could apply that in other games.
Yeah. I mean, you're making some strong arguments as to why Odyssey is a great is the better out of all the other uh Mario 3D games in that regard because yeah, there's a lot of thought that went into every all the levels, all the worlds that is, and
Mm-hmm.
where you can go, all that stuff. It was pretty cool. I was appreciating that myself. I was enjoying how like I said, like I sprinted through the game because I knew there was other moons I could get. I didn't want to bother with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually allowed you to be a speedrunner if you wanted to, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
or to just sniff the daffodils and play it super long if you wanted to as
Mm-hmm.
well, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And
mean,
that was a pretty remarkable part about the game for sure.
and that's the nice thing too is that I finished the main experience and wasn't ready to leave that world, and there was
Hmm.
plenty of content for me to explore and kind of continue that journey, right? And in that
Yeah.
sense, there's plenty of games that do that. Pokemon kind of like the real game doesn't actually start until you finish the storyline.
Hmm.
And then Monster Hunter, of course, once you beat the story, new types of monsters unlock and new challenges emerge, and so you can continue to play the game well beyond the critical path, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I thought Odyssey did that just extremely well, in terms of just in terms of giving you plenty of stuff to do, and when you've had enough, great, the game is happy with that, right?
Yeah. Um, just at least for me now it's just do I want to keep playing it or move on to Link's Awakening. You know what I mean? There's so
Yeah,
many.
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
trying to do the sprint where I'm going through all the
trying to catch up a
games that
little
have been
bit. Yeah.
boring. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I
because
think
there's games like like for example, Monster Hunter. I put 300 hours into
yeah,
that type of game.
sure.
And so what do so now I'm trying to just stay away from those longer epic style games and just trying to just play the classic. I mean, not classic, but just the general single player short burst experience type of games. So
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if you've played it and you feel like you've had the experience that you were looking for, yeah, I'd say you're pretty clear to move on. There's no secret storyline or new game plus or anything like that. It's more of what you've
hmm,
already experienced, right? And if you're interested in experiencing more of that, then stick with it. But, there are worse games to move on to than the Link's Awakening remake. I'll say that much.
yeah, I mean, you were raving about that game. I know for a long time as well. It's been out forever.
Mm.
And I've been meaning to play it. I did actually finish. What's funny is I also finished Short Hike, um,
Mm-hmm.
which was a really charming, cute little
Mm-hmm.
game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
A lot
enjoyed
of
that.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. Fun little just
Um,
kind of afternoon, lazy afternoon
yeah,
type of thing, right? You
yeah.
you know, I got through the whole thing basically in one lazy afternoon sitting,
Hmm.
and I did not feel like I wasted my time. I
Yeah,
had a very, very good time with it. It was a bit of a sleeper for me. I picked it up almost on a whim because I'd read a couple of good things about it
yeah,
and thoroughly enjoyed my time with it.
yeah. Same here. Whim. I read about it online. Thought, okay, it's only a couple hours and it's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
As a game. Yeah, it's a really cute, charming game.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the development team for that game is really small. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know, less than 10 people maybe at the
Mm-hmm.
most. And really, it's the heavy lifting was the designer and programmer, I think, for the most part. It's almost like, and then he had an artist to help him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it was
but
built in Unity, so yeah,
mhm.
probably unless they were doing something really crazy with the engine, they could probably get away with a single engineer,
Yeah,
and
yeah. It
so
seemed like
yeah,
it was pretty. It seemed really, really light.
yeah,
Um,
it was great.
as far as the production.
It was exactly what I was looking for when I played it.
Yeah, so like those type of gems of games that I don't want to miss out on, at that Monster Hunter or an Elden Ring type of game will will suck your lifeblood from you if you're not
Yeah,
aware.
yeah, for sure.
So,
I mean, like, with Monster Hunter, I'm happy to donate those hours to it, or Xenoblade
uh-huh,
Chronicles,
sure,
but you do kind of have to go, okay, I'm ready for this commitment now, and I'm going to put everything to the
yeah,
side while I get through it.
hmm,
And at least in the case with like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I started playing it and enjoyed it, but I'm like, okay, I'm not ready to commit this amount of time to it. And so I put it aside for a while, but then when I was ready, I came back to it, and then between the main game and the expansion, I put almost 200 hours into it. So
at this point, would you still say Xenoblade Chronicles is your favorite JRPG slash RPG, or where would you put it?
I would say that the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise is probably my favorite
Yeah,
JRPG series. Yeah, I'd say
yeah. I
Dragon
mean, it got
Quest
to a point.
is. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
because I mean, it got to a point where you actually got the giant sword to
Yeah, yeah,
put up,
yeah,
as a on your
yeah.
mantle. I
The
mean,
Monado, yeah,
yeah.
from the first
So
game.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'd say probably Dragon Quest is my second favorite JRPG franchise.
yeah,
But those are the two
yeah,
big ones for sure.
yeah,
Speaking of which, the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake comes out this week.
yeah. I
And
can't even keep track of these things. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
are you excited or are you nonplussed? What do you think about that?
I'm pretty nonplussed. I didn't really like Dragon Quest 3 that much, truth be told.
Uh,
And maybe I'll give it another chance, but when I played it, I didn't really grasp what they wanted me to do with the team system. When you enter the first bar or tavern or whatever, you there's a bunch of characters around, and you pick three more at random, and everybody has their own jobs, and it doesn't really do a particularly good job of explaining what a good team composition is, what
okay.
are the advantages or disadvantages of the different jobs. Um,
Hmm.
and then the difficulty was also higher than what I was looking for in
Okay.
terms of like, I mean, in early Dragon Quest games, it was just sort of a part of the process. I remember in the original Dragon Quest, Um, I spent like the first 2 or 3 hours just walking outside of town, fighting slimes, walking back inside, healing at an inn,
Yeah,
walking back
yeah,
outside,
yeah.
and never getting much farther than a few tiles away from the first town because you start so underleveled that you
This is the
really
first
can't.
game, the
Yeah,
very first one.
this is the
Yeah,
original
that's
game.
what I remember too. Yeah.
And now obviously, that they've rebalanced the game since then, so
Hmm.
you're not doing that, right? Um but if they don't do that effort in Dragon Quest 3 and rebalance the difficulty, I
You're
don't
out.
know that
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm at a point where I really want to grind on the low level slime monsters just so I can continue on with the quest.
Yeah.
And so I don't it's unclear to me um how they're going to play that out. So I'm going to wait for the reviews to come out and read a bunch of reviews and see if I can get a feel for how the remake is balanced, and if it seems like it's corrected some of the issues, maybe I'll get into it, and maybe I'll read an FAQ or something to help me, like,
Hmm.
hey, here's 10 things that you should know before starting Dragon Quest 3, those types of blog articles,
Yeah.
to give myself a bit of a leg up. The visuals look great. I mean, they're using the same kind of visual stylings as the Octopath Traveler
Hmm.
RPG, and
Oh, interesting. Really?
yeah, and
Huh.
I really, really, really dig that art style. I think it's really cool
Yeah.
looking.
It's a really cool looking style. Yeah.
Um, the difference is, I mean, I never got into Octopath Traveler because it was very, very self serious and way, way too, I don't know, hardcore JRPG for me. One of the
Okay.
reasons why I love Dragon Quest is because it's silly at its heart, right? I mean, there's
Hmm.
an adventure and there's all these, world altering events going on, but there's so much silliness and humor, and we've talked about this at length. How I love a little comedy and even my dramas,
Hmm.
and playing through Octopath Traveler, it was just there was nothing, there was very very little silliness. Everything was very serious and um uh like momentous or had gravitas, right? Everything had
Hmm.
gravitas, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, there's nothing quite like walking out of town the first time and the first enemy you fight is a blue blob, right? It just there's just something very funny about that, and I really like that. And so we'll see. I mean, Dragon Quest 3 is not one of my favorite, even though it is, a lot of people's favorite of the original. I much prefer Dragon Quest 1. I liked Dragon Quest 2, except that there is this one point where the difficulty just spikes, and this is sort of a known quantity um, in Dragon Quest 2, where it's fun for a while, and then there's just, I don't know,
Then
I
all of a
guess the
sudden,
designers
boom.
just stop trying to balance the game, and it just becomes nearly impossible to beat. And I
Yeah.
and I ran into that too. But then Dragon Quest 3, I just, the other thing too is I've never been a huge fan of the job systems that you'll see.
Hmm.
Dragon Quest 3, Dragon Quest 9 is another one, Dragon Quest 7. Um, and then, outside of Dragon Quest, you got Final Fantasy 3 and 5, both had really heavy emphasis on job systems. And I guess I'm not that into it. Sort of having
Hmm.
to micromanage all the different jobs, and then there's level caps for each of the jobs, so you have to switch jobs, but then you can unlock more powerful versions of the job, so you're balancing all these different, and it's too much
Yeah.
micromanaging,
Yeah.
right?
Sounds like it.
And
Hmm.
it's just not really my style. And so so the jury's out, I guess, was a very long-winded way of saying it. I love the visual style. Obviously, I love Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest 3 is not one of my favorites. Um, and so the answer is I probably won't buy it at full price, unless the reviews convince me otherwise. But I'm not expecting that to happen.
Speaking of remasters, though, aren't they remastering Xenoblade Chronicles and releasing that on
Yeah,
Switch?
they
But is
are
there a big difference, or
the
um?
yeah. So the original Xenoblade Chronicles has already been remastered for Switch. This is the sadly overlooked kind of side story, Xenoblade Chronicles
Oh,
X, that was came out on the Wii U.
okay,
They're going through, and it was a Wii U game, and so there's not going to be a huge amount of
okay.
visual upgrades because the Switch isn't that much more powerful than the Wii U was.
Man, it's crazy how they keep using the Switch pretty much as a proxy for Wii U stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Well, I
I
mean,
don't blame them, I guess.
yeah,
I mean,
right,
they,
exactly.
you know what? I mean, of course, they're doing everything else. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure. I loved Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U. It's the only Xenoblade Chronicles game I haven't beaten, so I'm excited to dive back into it and kind of rediscover it.
Oh, so
Um,
you are gonna buy that version of the game then?
I probably will,
Mm.
just because it's easier than digging out my Wii U. The only thing I will
Mm-hmm.
say is that I'm curious what they do because Xenoblade Chronicles X was built kind of from the ground up to utilize the gamepad on the Wii U. And
Mm-hmm.
so obviously there's a lot of features that are going to have to be kind of restructured and redesigned to a certain extent to
Mm-hmm.
remove sort of the dependence on the gamepad screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure it'll be fine. Um, yeah, so that comes out I think early next year, and so I think March of next year. So I'll definitely pick that up and give that a whirl. I might not get it right away because that's about the time where Monster Hunter Wilds comes out, so I'll probably be playing that pretty hardcore at the time. But we
So
shall
if they
see.
release Monster Hunter Wilds, I am assuming that maybe this is a bridge game, or maybe it could be an exclusive just for the Switch too. But I am wondering about that one. Like, what is their launch plans for this? Have they actually officially said which console it's coming for?
Yeah, so far it's PC, PS5, and Xbox. Um,
They haven't said anything about the Switch. It's so
no,
funny.
there's no way Monster Hunter Wilds would work on the Switch.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
it looks kind of yeah, it looks pretty daunting for that
yeah, yeah,
the Switch to run it. So
but it,
that means, so what would you do then? Are you gonna actually buy it on another system, or are you gonna try to get a Switch
well,
too?
worst case scenario, I'll get it on PC. They've already announced
Yeah.
that it's fully cross-play supported, so I'm not going to
Okay.
be limited
Yeah.
in terms of my access to the game. And also, like if I get it on my PC, I'll be able to use my Xbox
Your
Elite
fancy
2
controller.
controller. Yeah.
Yeah, your fancy smancy controller.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
know. Yeah.
That being said, we may have already talked about this, but I want to get an HD, Ultra HD Blu-ray player, and
Yeah.
those are like
Yeah.
$250, and I'm like, well, if I spend another $200, I can get a PS5, and then I
Hmm.
get the player and a game console, even though there's not really any games on the PS5 that I really care about that much.
Hmm.
Um, but if there is a Black Friday sale and the PS5 is on sale, then I'll probably go ahead and pick that up. And if that's the case, then I might get Wilds on the PS5 just because it's
Hmm.
easier. My laptop is kind of a pain to get working correctly on my TV setup for some reason. I've not been able to figure it out. And just because I'm lazy, if I have a PS5, it'll be easier. I don't really, my monitor is only like 27 inches, and even though I'm only sitting like a foot and a half from it, it's not as fun as playing on my 65-inch screen TV with full surround sound support.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it remains to be seen. I haven't decided what platform to pick it up on. I'll make that decision when the game releases, though.
Yeah. And I'll probably trail along. I'm not sure which angle I'm gonna go with. I mean, I have a PS5, so I might just bite on that. But I guess I associate Monster Hunter with Nintendo stuff. So there's a part of me that wouldn't. I mean, I don't know if it's worth it to get a Switch too, but a part of me would want to play it on Nintendo platform. And there's no actual reason as to why, because you can just play it on PC, and I'm sure it'll run just fine. Any other thing, but I just associate it with it because I put so much hours into Monster Hunter. Thanks to you referring that game to me.
Hey, I love
That I
spreading my
associate.
addiction.
Yeah, so I associate it with that. And so there's like, yeah, it's yeah, pure sentiment and nostalgia from those 300 hours sunk into that game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say
Um,
I have a legitimate reason for hoping it comes out on Switch too. Is just because I want to be able to just play it in my lap, right?
hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and I guess I could download it and play it on my Steam Deck, but
Yeah.
this Steam Deck is not quite powerful enough, I think, to probably run that game. It's definitely more powerful than the Switch, but I don't know if it's like its hardware is enough to play it at like PS5 level quality graphics. It's
Mm.
it's unclear, and also Capcom is really lousy about. They'll like fully support the Steam Deck, but it's not great. I have Monster Hunter World and Kinutagami and I play those usually like pretty exclusively on my Steam Deck, and it really takes a lot of effort to kind of find the right balance settings. Like
Hmm.
the when you launch the game, it auto sets if you're playing on the Steam Deck, it auto sets everything to min spec, right? And it's
Um,
visually unplayable. But obviously
yeah.
you can't set it to max spec either, and so you have to spend like 20 minutes
Oh, jeez.
going into the graphics settings and tweaking everything so you can hit about, for me, I don't care about anything above 30 frames a second. So I'm just trying to get it
Hmm.
around 30 frames a second and like
Yeah.
figuring out like what anti-aliasing you can and can't turned off. Can you turn on bloom? Can you turn on volumetric fog? Right? Like does ambient inclusion help here? And it's just like I don't want to deal with all of that, right? I mean that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons I've always been a console gamer is because I put the disc in
Yeah.
and
It's
after
just
it
runs.
installs, it just runs, right?
Yeah.
And because the developers have to build to the specs of the closed platform, and so it's a trade off. But so I might get it on PC just so I can have it on my Steam Deck.
Hmm.
Um, um, but yeah, I mean, barring that, I would love it if the Switch 2 was powerful enough to support Monster Hunter World or Wilds because that's my preferred platform, if only because I mean, all things remaining equal, it seems like the Switch 2 is going to be more of a hardware iteration on the Switch. It's not going to be a
Hmm.
complete Nintendo redesign.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then I mean, that's the great value proposition of the Switch. I'm playing in my living room. I'm
Yep.
ready to go to bed. I just take it out of the dock and I play for another half
Yeah.
hour to an hour, in bed before I fall asleep. That's why I want it on the Switch too, is because that's just the way I like playing games now.
Hmm.
But barring that, I could also just get a much bigger monitor than what I'm running. I'm cheap and I don't want to spend the money.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Monitor's kind of important. Semi. I
yeah,
mean, as long as the pixels are good enough for HD, for the most
yeah,
part, you're gonna be okay.
yeah. The
So
monitor's 1080p, but it's only like a
okay.
27-inch monitor, right? So
Oh, okay.
and so I'm only sitting about a foot away from it, but still, it's not the same
Yeah.
spectacle. And then obviously I don't have a surround sound system set up for my PC, nor am I going to spend the money to do that. And it's also kind of a pain to move my laptop over to the TV, plug it in, fight with
Yeah.
everything to make sure that the surround sound is getting pumped correctly through my receiver, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
So
it's a shame, and I know the technology's not there, but like when you can screencast stuff,
yeah,
I always hope that there's always that magic console or piece of software that will do no latency and send it over magical air, but it
yeah,
hasn't happened yet.
yeah.
I've
I mean,
tried it now a couple of times. It never works as well. You got a lag, and
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
worth it. So yeah, you always have to just physically connect it. That's always the best way, unfortunately. Um,
Barring it being out on the Switch too. If I do get a PS5, I might try to find some sort of a mod or a hack so I can connect my Xbox controller up to my PS5. That would be the dream. Um, because I've never really liked PlayStation controllers. I don't like where they put
huh?
the left thumbstick. I don't
Yeah.
like especially since the PS4. I don't like that big fat touch screen in the middle of it that basically has just become an oversized select button.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like the ergonomics of the PlayStation controllers. I've never been a fan of PlayStation controllers, and that's actually a really big deal, right? Justifiably so. Like the man machine interface with the game is a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. My answer right now is there's a lot of variables, and I haven't
Yeah.
decided which platform to get it on, and I'm hoping that it comes out on Switch too, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's a guarantee it'll be on Switch too. I mean, that was their flagship console for
Mm,
Monster Hunter. I would maybe I don't know. I guess fans would be really disappointed not having it on the Switch. I mean,
yeah.
I'm one of those people, but who am I? I'm just one lowly fanboy in the universe now for Monster Hunter that would expect it on Switch too. But
No, you're
yeah,
not wrong. I mean, other
because
than
you told
Monster
me
Hunter World on
yeah,
Xbox, like
because
It's been
You
nothing but
played on
Nintendo
all the
platforms. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Every time you told me about it, you've always been on Nintendo platform for the most
Yep.
part, except for yeah, the PS4.
Yeah.
And what's funny is when you first convinced me to get into Monster Hunter, I played on PS4,
Hmm.
and I still never went back to that one to Worlds. I still haven't.
Yeah. I
Now
mean,
at this point, I don't know if I will.
I
At this
wouldn't waste
point
your
either.
time. Honestly, um I got back into World on the PC because they had it on sale for like $5. And I'm like,
Hmm.
cool, I can use my Xbox controller and I don't have to use a crappy PlayStation
Yeah,
controller.
yeah,
And I beat the main game and I got to Iceborne and that's as far as I got. I think I fought the first couple of monsters in Iceborne. Really, really visually stunning. Love the monster
yeah,
design, but I'll be honest, the for whatever reason, and the worlds are too dense, too complicated, so I get lost in them, and that's not fun. The
yeah,
the difficulty is a little bit higher than most Monster Hunter games, which I'm not a huge fan of. The some of the balancing that they did on some of the weapons, I don't care for.
yeah.
Um, and so there was just a lot of things, and for me, still, Monster Hunter World is my least favorite Monster Hunter since I started playing back on Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate.
Yeah. I don't feel like I'm missing much. At this point, it's just gonna sit there, collect dust. There's too many other games to play, like Zelda and
Yeah,
all these other more single player experiences left to play instead.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
anyway,
I think I'm in a pretty good spot for tonight. Yeah, we've got all the poses pretty much in for Calamity for her to traverse this what do you call this? This cabinet bar,
the
the bar itself.
yeah,
So Um, yeah, I think yeah, we got all the I'll just do a real quick recap here. I mean, there's some small things I might change here and there. Like right here, I might get her hands a little bit higher up first before she actually plants them down on the table
mm-hmm,
here. But it goes by so fast. Like if I play this real time, it's done everything I needed to get her to the next shot, and then she's already up there. So yeah, I think in general, we're in pretty good shape. Let me turn off all the art and let's look at the sketches again. So we had, oh, where is it now? I just had it. Oh, it's right here. Yeah. Yeah. So we had this sketch that we did, and it's all red, the red line, and then that
mm-hmm.
red line. And we went from that to pretty much this to this, and then just kind of massaging that last pose to get to her climbing up a little bit. Yeah. Um,
Very cool.
yeah.
I like it. I really it's subtle, but I really love how you've got her hood come down as she turns.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, thanks. Thanks for yeah, I forgot about mentioning that, but you're right. That was part of the deal too, was to kind of make sure hood falls off because she was in incognito mode.
right, right.
Yeah. So I wanted to go have the hoodie fall off. The hoodie's almost another character for her too, in a way, because it does establish another mood for her in a
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
knows if she goes into a dark path and she has to put the hoodie on? Because that's always what they do in Hollywood, right? They always
Always,
have to put it on,
always.
and then they're always the other
Yeah, and
tougher,
they're always like
because
they're
they're
slumped
yeah,
over and yeah.
yeah. So she could have her emo phase like that, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? That's the writer's room. I don't know what they got planned over there, but
Mm-hmm.
who knows? But there could be a phase where she's pretty grumpy, and then the hood's always on. I mean, that could be kind of funny, Eric. I mean, if you think about it. I
Yeah,
mean,
like do an
it's like a,
entire
like a dark season, and she's
right, the
just,
dark season. Yeah.
yeah, you
We
can barely see her
desaturate
eyes.
yeah, we desaturate everything like an uncolor corrected digital camera. And it's
Yeah,
like it's raining in Dry Gulp Gorge for an entire season. It's like and we take it very seriously and it's almost like Deadwood or something like that.
yeah. And Mitchell's always trying to crack jokes, and it's really, really bad because she
Right.
doesn't. Well, actually, you know what's funny is because she's nonplussed by his jokes anyway, so
Yeah.
there's no difference really, except for she
Yeah.
has a hood on.
Right, right, yeah. And he like
She'll
yeah.
still say, "I don't get it," but not just a hood on.
But we could introduce a character similar to Timothy Oliphant's character, the sheriff whose name is escaping me right now. And
So, speaking of the sheriff character, I mean, I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you remember this, if I spoke it out into the void for us to talk about or not, but I always thought we have a sheriff's office in
Mm-hmm.
Dryculp Gorge, but there's no sheriff in town, and that
Mm-hmm.
sheriff went on a mission of some sort and has been gone the entire time. And
Mm-hmm.
Calamity's sort of like the substitute teacher, wannabe look up character for Law and Order, even though she's not. She doesn't want to be
Right.
that way. But do you remember us talking about that?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
sheriff that's on vacation type of thing, or on away doing some other deal.
I know for certain we have. There was that period where you were working on the 3D sculpts for the town, and the sheriff's office
Mm-hmm.
came up, and I know
Yeah,
we spoke at length about the nature of the sheriff and how he disappeared and how Calamity sort of like unwittingly walked into an environment where she has been forced to take on the mantle of this character
yeah, yeah,
and yeah, so we do have some notes on him. I'd have to dig up, but yeah, I do. We did talk about that.
yeah. And visually, and then again, this is super vapor, but there's a taco shop I go walk into all the time, and I grab my al pastor tacos. I love going in there. It's a compost. I don't know if you, when you're in LA, if you went to a compost
A
chain.
compost? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I love their al pastor tacos there and their cheese enchiladas. Another non-sponsor related shout out. But when I walk in there, there's a picture of a long black haired girl with a shotgun. And I
Hmm.
always thought, man, she would be a cool sheriff. I'll have
Yeah,
to take a picture and I'll send it to you. But I was
yeah, I'd
thinking
love
maybe
to
that
see
could be the
that.
sheriff. Yeah. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
a whole other
way
conversation. Yeah, let's
yeah.
get the first episode done, and then we can
Yeah,
loop
we should
back
get the first
around.
episode done. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's fun to kind of spitball once in a while.
yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, well we'll wrap it up there for the evening. Thanks everybody for joining us. You can head on over to calamityjane.rocks. That'll take you to our Patreon site. Please consider subscribing and us helping this make this cartoon a reality. You can also find us on YouTube or Facebook, which presumably you already have since you're watching the stream. And every once in a while we'll post to Instagram, although that's been kind of quiet lately, other than our regular posts about the newest stream. We'll get around to it at some point once we have some clever ideas, but it's still there. So you can find us in any one of those locations. In the meantime, we'll be back next week, I presume. I don't like our lives are finally both starting to calm down a little bit.
I think so.
Um,
I don't think there's anything going on my side.
with the
You're the
holidays
one.
coming up, other than trips potentially. I know that
Yeah.
sometime in December I won't be around, but for the most part I should be
Okay.
around.
Yeah, I'm the same here. I think yeah, Thanksgiving's always on a Thursday, so no
Yep.
worries there. There's Black Monday, but we can do that from home. That's
Or
the whole point.
Cyber Monday, right? Isn't that what
Oh,
it's
Cyber
called?
Monday, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cyber Monday, yeah. Cyber
Yeah.
Monday. So yeah, you can do that from home. So yeah, I don't anticipate anything coming up for the next little while, except for around Christmas time when I'll be traveling probably
Yep.
myself. And
Yep. So we'll
yeah,
be around for the foreseeable future. So tune in next week, the same Calamity time, same Calamity channel. And until there, stay safe out there, everybody. Good night.